Oh man, it was bad. Earlier I was taking a drink and it went down the wrong tube and I was there like coughing for like 5 minutes and I started crying and this guy next to me was just looking at me like, if you die, it's not my fault. And I'm like, thanks, dude. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Oh, are we online now? Yes, we are. I found the video.
Oh, good.
I'm going to share the link now.
Yeah.
Don't, like, if you're not feeling up to it, you don't have to do the full, like, fanciful journal. You can wait to do that until you're actually alive.
I've already done the lazy ass thing. I didn't put all the fancy stuff on it, to be honest.
Okay.
So I just kind of did the header stuff. So.
I like seeing like that your icon matches the mood, but it's kind of gross.
Well, that's kind of the point.
I just can't take it seriously.
Okay, let's see. I am updating the journal thingy, and then I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Damn it, Chi, you're contagious.
No, don't you dare! Don't get sick. It's terrible. Okay, I've shared it in the chat, and I've updated the journal, hopefully. Everyone can stare at Alan's booger.
You should probably get a tissue or something for that.
Oh my gosh, draw a tissue on him.
Like, why would you let it get that far down your face?
Oh, I would never do that. That's just nasty.
Right?
Well, speaking of nasty body things, in creative writing last week, we had to read a story where this one guy got knifed in the eye. And ever since my Chihuahua got his eye injured, that stuff just freaks me out. So every time the teacher said, you know, knife in the eye and stuff, I was like, oh, can we please just not? That's like the one CSI that got to me, was the maid who got skewered in the eye. That's the one out of 15 seasons that freaked me out.
Okay, I think we've got most people listening to your Chihuahua story. Let's see, I'm going to check the YouTube video real quick so you all might hear yourselves. Yeah, 6 watching, so we can go ahead and start.
Yeah. Hello, welcome back to D.Gray-Talk.
Yeah, and this is part 2 to our last Innocence talk. And for the record, I am very sick. I've got the flu, and, well, my icon kind of says it. But I might not talk as much, or if I do talk a lot, I'm going to sound really weird. So, and you might hear me hacking in the background. So, I will try not to blow my nose into the mic.
That would be much appreciated.
Well, sound good. Good stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I think this is probably going to be maybe slightly less structured than usual, just because we're all tired or sickly or trying not to get sickly, so. Or dying of heat, because holy frick, it's springtime already and it's not right.
Here I'm cold.
Well, you can take our heat. It's not supposed to be warm yet for another 2 months.
Okay.
Sorry, yes.
I pulled up the doc on my iPad, but whatever y'all want to start with first.
I mean, I think you had a good starting point with kind of like the common innocence ideas that are sort of recycled in the fandom. Not necessarily that they're bad things, but just that you kind of see with a bit of commonality.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
With 35 plus innocences.
Yeah, as we mentioned last time, or I did anyway, I did a DeviantArt search because I was curious, because I knew there were a lot of wing innocences that got used, you know, fan characters that have wings for their innocence, and I counted 35.
Oh my god.
And this isn't even, I still haven't checked Google or Tumblr for the extras because I was just so mind blown. But I haven't done it yet for scythes, but I'm kind of afraid to.
Yeah, it's probably going to be even more, to be honest.
Yeah. But so like Chica mentioned too, there are a lot of innocence ideas that have been used to the point that you get 35 plus. But if you do it creatively and you make it different from what's been done before, it's not a bad thing. So don't let someone be an asshole to you if you do it creatively and they're like, oh, you did wings.
Well, then plus, like, if you have wings and you see someone else doing wings, you are one of 35 people. You cannot say that they stole the idea from you.
Well, wings is such a like kind of stereotypical power, you know, when you go, oh, what superpower would you have? You know, wings or flying is one of them, and so it's, you know, it's kind of one of the first ideas that quite a few people have come to, and it's not a bad thing, but
it's cool though.
Angels,
yeah,
D.Gray-Man, biblical or Abrahamic text influences. Everyone's like, angels! I want an angel character.
The cool thing, though, is that when I was researching for Raphael, there are a frick ton of different types of bird wings. Like, obviously, there's, like, butterfly wings and different animals with different wings. But just looking at birds, there's ones designed for fast takeoffs, for soaring, for traveling long distances. Yeah, there are entire, like, I can't remember how many there are, but I found an entire sheet one time of easily 10 different types of wings, depending on the species. Because, you know, like, an eagle is going to need stronger, larger wings than, say, a robin. And that's reflected in the shape. And it's actually really cool. So
it was like when Chica, her character Raphael, has wings, but they're not your normal type of feathered wings. Is one of the things is not all wings are used for flight either, and that's a really cool idea she used. Is her wings, her character can't fly with them. So there's a lot of things you can do with wings, different shapes, different ways they work. For the record, feathers as a weapon is the most commonly used thing for Innocence wings, so just keep that in mind.
Especially because Innocence, when it kind of gets to that rawish form, has all those little wing bits. You know, the first form of Mugen that we see in kind of flashback has the Innocence-y feathers that are piercing his hand. And Alma had it, and
Alan's shown wings before now.
Yeah.
So it's not a stretch with Innocence.
Right.
There's an artist I follow, they're on D.Gray-Talk as well. I think they're Terrific. They do a lot of angels. They don't do any D.Gray-Man stuff, but they have this absolutely amazing angel stuff. And I'd say if you want to do wings, go check out what they do. And also, you know, don't copy them, but like that just the way that they come up with all these different wings. I swear they must have like 40 plus angel characters. They just have so many, and they keep making more. But each wing set for each angel is designed completely differently. And she made a post on Tumblr about like kind of where she gets her inspiration from, and it was really interesting to read because sometimes like I was just like, oh, I didn't think about that, but now that you've mentioned it, I can notice all these little things about about the designs and how it relates to the character and their powers, and I thought that was really interesting. So definitely check out Terrific if you're looking at doing wings, and you know, hopefully you can find a new avenue of wing innocence that hasn't been explored before.
Yeah, and some of the examples, too, that I found with the whole 35 number, half of them were feathered, yes, but the other half weren't, and there were some creative designs in there. So, as we've said again and again, something may be cliche and something may be overused, but if you take it as a challenge and make it into something creative, it's a cool thing, you know?
Like, I'd be curious to see more equip type wings. I think there's at least one, and it might be the mechanical wings.
Yeah, no,
I almost did that for Raph, but I was too attached to parasite type. So.
Yeah, honestly, I'd love to see more equip type, because everyone's like, oh no, I want parasitic. But equip would be cool. I mean, there's extra risk to it. What if you drop your wings? Oops.
Then you splat, and it
also have the possibility of being shot down by Aquaman mid-flight. And, you know, what if you're, you know, several hundred feet in the air? What is that going to do to the Exorcist?
Splat.
Splat.
Right.
Yeah.
It'd be really
Oh, we're
interesting
terrible.
to see how they get out of that one.
And unless y'all got more to say on wings, there's like a few other things that are commonly used for weapons in D.Gray-Man.
I guess my only comment for the wings thing would be, as far as designing the uniform for an exorcist, that's going to be like primarily in the air. You probably want to think about aerodynamics for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, that's very important.
Holy cow,
also, something that's brought up with Lena Lee's uniform is that hers is insulated because, you know, she's jumping up to quite, you know, high heights and it's, you know, colder up in the air and stuff like that. At least I think that was her one. I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
I mean, I know it's you know, she's got the skirt, but at least, you know, the top half and the center of her body is, you know, insulated. And, you know, obviously you've got factors like wind and weather to take into consideration.
Yeah. Yeah, and Alyssa mentioned one of her characters was going to have metal wings originally, and I think pretty much everyone's kind of thought about having a character with wings. I don't know about y'all, but I know I definitely thought about it before.
Oh no, I've never thought about it.
Yeah. But okay, and
Just
the other one that Razy just mentioned too, and that we've got on our list is scythes. I think we actually have more scythes than wings in this fandom.
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest.
I mean, I've got a scythe, so. Yeah, I think
it'd be okay, but again, you know, do something different with it.
if a character has metal wings, they will attract lightning. Yeah. That's what Trash just said.
Oh, right, exorcist.
Okay, but yeah, back on scythes. I think the attraction of scythes is that exorcism and demons and darkness and okay, I'll just give my character a scythe because I mean scythes look badass and they look fun to draw and design. So, yeah, I think I would definitely go on a limb and say there's at least 50 on DeviantArt with scythes. Not gonna lie. But it's the same thing with wings. You know, you can take a common idea and make it creative.
Just gotta also make sure that you're making it creative while still not doing something that someone else has done before, especially if you're gonna be ripping it off of them, because that is 50 levels of no.
Yeah, and one thing I've noticed too, like, it's not just with scythes, it's with a few other common weapons, is like they make scythes parasitic.
Yeah.
And if it's like your full-on staff with a really sharp, pointy end, I don't know. I think it depends on how you do it, but it kind of screams wieldy and equipment to me.
Yeah.
Like I know some people have really liked my character Kira. She has a parasitic innocence. It's a morphing body armor, and her second release move, she has a scythe. And I'm gonna be completely honest here. The only reason I gave her a scythe was to piss off Mary Sue critics. So, I mean, you can use me as an example if you want, but I'm going to put that disclaimer out there. I tried to make it work because I thought, hey, this is going to be fun and maybe I'll finally piss off a Mary Sue critic. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. You probably shouldn't use me as a reference.
You're not very good at getting them to pay attention to you.
Yeah. It's like, oh, well, Chi's doing it. Well, Chi's already admitted to.
And I think people are afraid to go anywhere near you, Chi.
Oh gosh, that's not with logic though.
Yeah. Aries mentioning too, she made her DGM character Gali to piss people off, and Gali's original design definitely could have pissed people off, but for some reason it didn't. It's like all the people looking to piss off Mary Sue critics aren't getting attacked, and the people that don't deserve to get attacked are getting attacked. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
God damn it, Mary Sue critics, you know, get your shit together.
Hopefully, though, this is a good sign that they're kind of on the, like, they're not on the rise anymore, that they're starting to get less popular, that would be a very good thing. However, I know that as soon as it gets posted, something's going to happen, so I'm going to knock on wood and leave it at that.
Yeah, okay. I think another point to think about with scythes is the common scythe, the sharp end is on the inside, not the outside. So if you're designing a scythe for your character and you don't want someone to, like, call you a dumbass, take note of how scythes are made and how they work, because, like, as you'll know in farming too, the way they work is you pull them towards you and it chops whatever's in front of you, because the inside is the sharp point. So if you're watching anime like RWBY, if that counts, and
Ruby.
Yeah, and Soul Eater, just keep that in mind. Like, the way that they have designed those weapons are a little different from what your actual scythe is.
Well, a point to note about Ruby's scythe in Ruby is that the scythe blade is actually a bit flexible, and it can actually pull. It can pull right back, so it's, you know, almost quite close to being straight. You can see it if you watch the Ruby Red trailer, where she's fighting. But then also, you know, how weapons, like all weapons in the Ruby universe, are built to change their shape, and, you know, they become compact, they become guns, and, you know, stuff like that. But that could be a thing to consider for when you do make a scythe one. Are you going to allow your scythe blade to have that kind of flexibility so you can, you know, get a bit more range with it? But then how would you work that in? I don't know, like, would it be useful at all to have the top blade of the scythe, the top part of the scythe, to be another blade as well? Because, you know...
You know, and that's a thing, too, to think of, because there are many different kinds of scythes. The most common I see that people are uploading are the ones with the one long end, and sometimes they have a little short end next to it, you know, at the top where the blade is. But there are things such as double-end scythes. There's actually a canon double-ended scythe staff thing. I have yet to find the actual image, but it is referenced to on Wikipedia, and I will find it eventually.
Well, and I'd like to throw out there, too, that if you do have, or if you want to go with a scythe-ish weapon, but you want a blade on the outside or something, you can look at medieval staff weapons, spear weapons, and axes, especially.
Pole arms, pole axes, Yeah,
exactly. I've put in so many hours of research into looking at medieval weapons because just they're so dang cool. Admittedly, most recently it was because I couldn't remember the name of a Kyoketsu shoge. There are hundreds of designs out there because everywhere in Europe and a lot of Asian countries too had spear-ish weapons that have the pole structure very similar to what a scythe has. So you might get the idea of, ooh, I want a scythe, and then start researching and realize that there are way cooler weapons out there than scythes.
And I can admit that I definitely did that too. So.
I think, I mean, just based off of, you know, what the image that we have provided to us, and the information of past Alma's weapon, Hoshino mentioned that it was double-bladed, and to me, like, the way the feathers curve looks like a scythe-ish thing to me. And in the translation, it is mentioned to be double-ended, so maybe it's a double-ended.
We'll have to see when we get the anime.
What day? I wouldn't know.
I need to make it clear to my new roommate that D.Gray-Man's probably going to be on next year, and that I'm going to be squeeing a lot in my room. Sorry, I did not mean to cut you off.
No, you're totally fine. I literally cried whenever I saw everyone blogging that it was going to go on.
Oh yeah, I woke up to the news on Girl Squad and I cried too. And then we went to see Star Wars that day, and I was like, meh, Star Wars, D.Gray-Man. And I say this as someone with a Star Wars tattoo, so. But yeah. Well, another super common weapon we see are throwing blades. And I think that's probably
not nearly as common as scythes or wings, but they have been on the rise.
true. Especially, I imagine with stuff like Tokyo Ghoul, where Toka has wings that also have throwing blade type things.
I have already seen an OC that looks like they have Tokyo Ghoul wings, so...
I have too, and I'm not going to go further into this.
Yeah, definitely depends on how you do it.
Like, definitely it's a viable idea, and again, it's a weapon that shows up in multiple cultures. Just make sure you're not doing the same thing as anyone else.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I'm just going to say it from my own bias as a character reviewer and fan of D.Gray-Man for a while. When you see a character that has a weapon or something that looks exactly from another series, it doesn't look that creative. It looks more like you're ripping off from the other series, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's tacky to say the least. Like, definitely if you're inspired by something else and you want to work with it, great, go for it, because there are awesome ideas in other fandoms. Just don't straight rip it, or people who recognize what it's from are just going to head desk.
And you'll probably just get constant comments from them going, oh yeah, do you know that's from this series? That looks like it's from this series.
Yeah.
That looks like this character from this thing. And you'll just get that.
And on that note, it's kind of insane. Like, it's not cool to look at someone's character, be it for a fandom or like a persona or something, and say, hey, this looks like something, this thing over here. So if you want to avoid that, then please, like...
Okay.
Here's Cora.
Yeah. Okay, mini little spin-off from this topic. Just to get it in there, like Chica just said, one thing's on being a decent human being is, for some people, it may read as complimentary for you to, like, say, oh, your character looks like this and this character. The problem is when we create characters, we're trying to make them creative and unique. And so when someone's like, oh, yeah, they look like this and this character, it's like, well, I guess I'm going to throw this character out the window.
Yeah.
Like the other day, I was up in my dorm room and I was working on a drawing of either Sinai or Raphael. I can't remember. And my roommate saw it, and she's like, "Oh, that's like so and so from Bleach." And I felt like someone just burst my life raft. I was like, "Oh, why?"
Yeah.
So it's just considered like it's not a compliment in most cases.
Yeah, and like as Ari used to saying too, not every character with twin ponytails is Miku. I actually had someone who was compared my character Kira to Korra from Legend of Korra. The problem with this was Kira was created in 2010, 2009, and Korra was created years later.
I had so many people asking if Adolpha was a waterbender, and I didn't even know what that was.
So, just like, it's one of those things where it may not read as insulting to you, but when you get down to it, it's like, to put it in perspective, it sounds like you're telling that person, oh, you ripped off this character.
And to be honest, in like some cases, people probably know that a character looks slightly similar to another character, or, because there's so many different characters out there that, you're going to have similarities between in appearances or weapon appearances or powers, and so, they probably already know, and if they don't know, they don't care. Like, if you see the amount of characters
similar, it's another to be a ripoff.
Yeah, there's also the moment of, like, if it's a POC character too, sometimes if you immediately compare them to the first other POC character that, like, is prominent in media, that's...
Like, to be fair, it's not our fault that there aren't enough PLC characters in media, because, to be honest, there aren't many, and we need so many more. But yeah, just because you see someone who decided to make their character something other than Caucasian, that doesn't automatically mean that they were thinking of this character that you want to compare them to. Maybe they just want to celebrate the fact that dark skin's actually really freaking gorgeous.
Yeah, and again, just for those who may not be familiar, POC means a person of color, as in someone who's not white.
So. and it can be anything from like Native American to Asian, which Asia is not entirely white people.
Yes, yes.
I don't know why people think that to the Middle East.
Yeah. That's like a spiel too for another time on some characters we've seen that are an interesting color for that ethnicity.
Just remember that not all East Asians are pale. You know, the equator is a thing, the sun is a thing, the melanin is a thing.
It does things to people.
And actually,
get back though.
Well, that's actually really interesting too. On that note, I just want to like quickly cover this.
Yes.
Like, if you look at India, North Indians are significantly lighter than South Indians, and I did not realize this until I was researching for Devin.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like cool things to keep in mind when you're making your character is that, you know, skin color is a thing, and it's actually in some ways a lot easier to color than white skin, like when you're drawing it.
I mean, yeah, in my first year in university, I shared a flat with a North Indian and a South Indian, and, you know, they were completely different colors, but also elements of their culture were completely different. You know, they ate different types of food. I think with the South Indian, there was these, like, flat breads that they would eat, and they were, like, kind of loose, and they would just scoop it all up, but it was like the specific thing, and she was like, yeah, I don't eat much of that, because, you know, I'm not gonna eat. I was like, all right, you know, that's interesting.
We gotta slow down our words. We gotta slow down our words a bit. Sorry. We gotta get on a tangent.
But yeah, so this is where research comes in, because, you know, especially when you're looking at countries that are really big, there is going to be a lot of nuance in different parts of the country's culture, because they'll have different influences that one part will have and another part won't.
Yeah. Okay.
It's been pointed out that we need to get back.
We got off on a tangent. But back to the throwing knives.
Yes.
Oh, and I just remembered really another common thing. But back to the throwing knives. Most of the time they're equipment, and a lot of the times it's like illusions related, or there are a bunch of copies of the knives, and, you know, the usual throwing. Most of the throwing knife concepts I've seen are pretty creative, though, so you know, take it with a grain of salt. Try to make it creative.
Yeah, my only issue with throwing knives would be if they are kind of equipment or whatever, or if there's only, like, you only have a set number, how are you going to get them back?
Boomerang!
Yeah. I mean, once you throw them in an Arkema, and then, like, say you're, like, you know, 20 meters away or whatever, and then another Arkema comes in front of you, but you've got no weapons left because you threw them all. What are you going to do?
Run for the weapon! Go retrieve it!
Literally.
Yeah, what Raisy's saying, Diakuma throws knife, stays there. Oh, shit!
Yeah. I mean, you know, think of, like, a really interesting way to recall them or something.
Yeah, that's why Owl whistles to get her axes back after she throws them, because I would not want to be out on a battlefield, especially if they're fighting at night, looking for your weapon. That would suck.
Yeah, and Alyssa just brought up something I've used before, too, with my characters, but Alan can summon his sword back to him, right? And there's, like, a mixture of things to think about with that, because, like, we've seen Kanda throw his sword before, and he had to go retrieve it. But one thing I've theorized with Alan is because he is a parasitic type, and there's actually innocence remaining on his arm, like the stub of his arm. You can see the markings and everything, the cross, even when he pulls his Sword of Salvation out. Like, that could be a way that it could be brought back to him, I thought.
Yeah, no,
again, that's a
headcanon. That power of recall. But then I guess, you know, at the end of the day, it is still his arm. So.
And that's one of the theories I've used, as some of y'all know already, with Kira. But again, that's like a headcanon theory thing. We're not actually 100% sure if that's normal or not.
Yeah.
So, whatever floats your boat.
Just so long as it doesn't turn over someone else's.
Racy says stupid Panda can't even use the Force.
Well, he has his life force, but I don't think that works anymore. So.
No.
Okay. Damn it, Cadra.
D-Grammon's all happy, fun times until you actually stop and think about what's going on. Then it's like, oh, this is not okay.
The world's no.
I'm trying to remember what was the other common innocence. Someone else mentioned swords too, but I think we discussed that in the intro vid. How many swords there are?
Arm blades.
Arm blades, right?
Well,
I've seen a lot of blades like coming out of the lower portion of the arm.
I like the slap as you try and think of the word.
I slapped my lower arm, yes.
I'd like to throw out that we don't see that at all in canon, and we saw it first with Gaze-Ray. So as
first
far as
out of the tops of her hands, too, which is very creative.
Yeah, it breaks my heart every time I see someone else using a similar design because Ray's been in the fandom for longer than any of us, so it's really not cool to see someone else using that same design.
Yeah, and there are ways to do it differently, you know? Because, I mean, most people aren't going to think of something coming out of the top of the hand. Usually it's going to be coming out of the wrist or the side of the arm or the back of the elbow. So...
Yeah, because with Foe, we do see it like coming out to the sides when she activates her weapons. But yeah, that's something that breaks my heart a little bit more every time I see it.
Yeah, arm blades. I've seen a few different types of arm blades that are coming.
Quite a few parasitic ones where it's in the bones or whatever.
Yeah, there's been a lot of. Alyssa's mentioning Silverton. She can just correct me if I'm wrong, but. She can summon blades from most parts of her body, not just her arms. Yeah. I think it has something to do with silver in the bone marrow or something.
Oh, yeah, I know one of Liger's characters has a bone arm thing.
Masara?
No, Messina.
Messina, something, yeah.
Yeah, because, like, she was also Polynesian. I was like, Polynesian buds!
Yeah. Like, there's definitely good ways to go about it. You know, it's just what I've been saying the whole time of be respectful of your fellow fans and aware of what's already out there.
Right. One that I neglected to put on our little list was fire type innocence.
Oh, yes. So many fire types.
There are a lot of fire types, and I've reviewed, I think, 2 or 3 characters before for trying to create more creative fire design concepts.
I'm still really surprised that no one has seen a lantern before Josephine.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been better.
There are so many ways to use fire, and one thing I will definitely suggest if you're planning to make a character involving fire is don't use fireballs.
Yes.
I swear almost every single fire-oriented character has fireballs.
Well, and I think that's bringing into like influence from medieval fantasy stories. Like someone who I actually kind of accidentally dragged into the fandom has a character with fire, and who I met her through Dragon Age, so I know that that's where she gets the influence. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah.
That's not really bad. But I'm sure that there's a lot of folks that get into DGM who do know about medieval fantasy, and that might be where they get it from. Because it's really helpful for, you know, taking out Darkspawn and evil things in medieval world. Actually, not so effective against Darkspawn, but definitely against Templars.
Yeah, and like you can do it in a variety of ways. Lou has a really neat Native American fan character who has fire, and she uses fire in dances. Like when she's fighting, it looks like a dance when she's using the fire. So you can do it in a variety of ways, and like Mojo mentioned she has a character named Fi who has a lantern, and it's fire oriented. So
her fighting style is literally Fee Smash. But like, you know.
Bash it all with the lantern.
It's Fee.
Yeah.
I read it as Fi too. So.
It's because it's Josephine. So
Yeah.
I did it.
Mojo, you forget we're Americans and we don't all have the best accent in the world.
I'm sorry.
I still can't pronounce Raisy's username, so and she's my husband.
Honestly, I assumed I had just been saying it wrong in my head the entire time. I was like, has it been gays, Ray? Like, I was like, I must be wrong.
I can't really think of any more really common ones aside from like rip-offs of canon, not of fan characters. Thankfully, rip-offs of canon aren't as common.
I see a lot of fire ones that are kind of quite similar to firebending.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, a lot of the fire ones can be quite unique. At least the ones I've seen, because they always, find like a kind of different way to go about it. I know. Oh my God, Papyrus Tree's got the Firebird.
Yeah, the
one,
Phoenix.
Which is really cool.
Yes, I love her.
Bunbay's got the one that's got the candelabra. I saw a candle one, which is cool.
I've seen more eye innocences, but they're still not really that common.
And they're also different from what I've seen.
Innocences have become quite popular lately, because I've seen quite a few floating around.
You're right, too, about that, Sissy. I think it was Sissy who said it. But surprisingly enough, like, the eye innocences, they're all so different from one another, and they're all so creative from one another. It's pretty impressive.
Right.
Because I'm thinking, like, Ada, if that is how we pronounce her name. Ada, she sees into the future. You've got Chica's Embria, who has that copying technique with her eyes. Yeah, and Melissa's mentioning there's been a few more, like, I know I've talked to someone who was thinking of a tattoo kind of innocence, and I've seen a few tattoo or ink innocences before.
Fun fact: when I first created Kahani and Devin, originally Devin was supposed to die and Kahani was going to become an exorcist. The reason I didn't get very far with her was because I couldn't decide whether I wanted a sash to be her innocence or if I wanted it to be henna ink as a tattoo. Looking back on it, I'm kind of glad that it ended the way it did, because otherwise I wouldn't have my Delvinship. But yeah, that's something too, is that there's different kinds of inks and tattoos out there. So. I heard all the squeaks when I said I was going to kill Devin originally.
Oh, Lulu, are you having... Oh, I guess, well, I can't really ask her if she's having trouble hearing, because apparently she can't hear.
Oh, we still have the Q&A here available, too, if anyone wants to give that a try. Just throwing that out there.
I'll answer for Lou in the chat if she wants an answer to this question if she can't hear us on here.
Yeah, that's fine.
But, Alyssa, you've seen a really cool skin-related innocence, and they were a dark-skinned character.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know if I've seen any other aside from mine for that.
I don't know of a whole lot of dark-skinned characters, yeah.
Not saying...
Oh!
This one's new. I didn't realize their innocence was in their skin. I'm going to screen share real quick for those who may view this later. There was a recently uploaded character who looks really awesome, and their gender is not supposed to be immediately obvious, though they have an assigned gender. I did not realize their skin was innocence, but...
That design is really cool.
Let's see. He's able to select one of the rings and take it off his body as a light disc, which is really sharp, and throw it at Akuma as a cutting frisbee. Oh my god, this sounds so cool! Okay, then the rings will come back like a boomerang and become part of his skin again. I think I've found another favorite.
That is awesome, yeah!
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I wouldn't have...
Excuse me.
I wouldn't have thought of, like, physically removing your skin, beating someone up with it, and then putting it back on.
Yeah, I'm favoriting that to my faves.
The fact that it's a dark-skinned character, too, and it's the light rings of skin that turn into bands of light. Oh, yes, I love it.
So cool.
I just met you, and I love you.
Yeah, this is us fangirling.
This is what we all sound like every time a really good new character hits the web, so...
That is so cool.
Man, I spazzed probably about twice that when Anuramis and Satesh were uploaded too. I think I literally squeaked.
For those who don't know, Anurabis and Satesh are Egyptian twin characters Razy and I created together. And they're really dark-skinned, but
And they're really fab.
They're like the definition of fabulous.
There's been a lot of cool POC characters being uploaded lately, so I'm really excited as someone who really likes to color dark skin.
Oh, heck yeah. It's, in some ways it really is easier than Caucasian, because it's like, they're not going to look yellow, they're just going to look a beautiful brown. I love it.
She says she's got a bit of a crush on those Egyptian darks.
Oh.
Who wouldn't though? Because as
I think Crazy and I do too, honestly. Who doesn't have a crush on them, says Alyssa.
It's accurate though.
Seriously.
Yeah. Need more men, need more POC characters. Go creating, guys. Okay.
I need to check out Zahar one of these days too.
Okay. So I think that mostly covers though.
Yes.
The super common ones, yeah.
Yeah, because I can't really think of any that really stands out as super common. I mean, I've seen a few Innocents with the long nails, but those have kind of died out. So,
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. That's nasty.
What
I
was
think you just bumped into your computer. I was like, there it goes.
Well, we've gone over the common Innocence ideas, so should we go over ones you what you probably shouldn't do, or
Sure.
Rip off anything in canon? Or rip off anything that the fan characters have done?
I think the most ripped off one I've seen is Alan's Claw, and next to that, Konda's Katana.
There are thousands of swords out there. You can literally pick any other sword. Why does that have to be a katana?
Or machete. Go crazy like Sokolo.
Machetes are fun, actually. My mom has one at home, and I feel that, and I feel like I hold that, and I feel like a badass.
Pull up Sokolo's, or Sokolo, however you want to pronounce Sokolo's weapon, and his isn't a sword, but it's a giant-ass blade, and that's a friendly reminder that you don't have to do just a sword.
A giant-ass blade with a lot of serrated edges.
Yeah,
because it's terrifying.
I mean, it's freaking obnoxious.
You don't want to stand next to that thing.
Okay.
Friendly fire, friendly fire.
Yeah, I think I have a feeling Sokolo's the type who's not going to give a shit if he accidentally hits someone else either. He'll blame it on them. But...
Especially not a finder. I feel like there's a lot of cannon fodder there.
Found
but
it.
I think also something interesting to consider is also sword fighting style.
Yeah.
This is something that I also kind of noticed in Ruby as well. There's a couple of characters that they have swords and they use, I can't remember what it's called. I want to say Lido, but, I'm going off memory here. And it's basically the Japanese sword art where you unsheath quickly, slash and resheath really quickly. Of course, that's just, one, but there's all these different kinds of sword fighting styles all over the world. And that's something to consider, it's a bit more advanced than hacking and slashing, which, is probably the basics of sword arts, but, you can get really, interesting. Like, I found out recently there's a medieval technique called half-swording, and it's where you grab the blade of the sword to help you fight. It's really interesting. Yeah. I didn't read that much about it at the time, but I was just like, wow, this is so cool.
Oh, gross. Sorry. I just realized that I was trying to figure out why it was raining, and it's not rain. It's actually Akuma blood.
Is it just real?
You didn't remember
that?
that?
In that scene.
I was confused because I was like, it didn't rain during that arc. Oh, wait. Sorry.
And it was like black in the anime too,
And he's
which
got
always
his
made me
mouth
think
open
spoil.
as well.
Yeah,
Is that stuff getting inside?
like Mojo was saying, there's a lot of different style types.
Are you okay, Chi?
I think it's because I'm sick. I'm just not catching on as quickly.
Yeah, because one of my friends is making a character. I'm actually commissioned to draw him sometime, and he has his weapon is kind of this equipment type kind of handle thing, and then but he also has control over like water vapor, and he can solidify that into ice, and he makes lots of different sword weapons.
Ooh.
But what he also does is he constantly is training and learning all different kinds of sword styles, so he can, efficiently use all the weapons and stuff like that, which I thought was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to point out, Razy in the chat said, don't rip anything off of people. Please don't rip off 2 or 3 innocents at the same time and put them into a new innocence, or act like I'm gonna make that innocence better. I hurt at each of those. The idea of someone doing that all at once, no.
It's similar to the kind of, I've seen a couple of times when people have gone, oh, I'm going to redesign your character. It's the same thing as doing that. It's not nice, and it's really rude. And don't be a dick.
And I think to put it in perspective too is we'll go more in depth with this in the actual rip-off video, but I do want to give a quick example since it's Innocence-related. And that's Chica recently uploaded a character she's working on that has a pocket watch for an Innocence. And I've personally never seen any done before, and she did her research and she hadn't either. And one thing I'd like to give for an example is I had been planning a self-exorcist, because Crazy wants me to make one, but a self-exorcist that has a compass and a pocket watch-like deactivated appearance. And instead of keeping like what I had originally, which was like a golden pocket watch kind of look, is I immediately messaged Chica and I was like, okay, I had this idea. I want to run it by you first since you got this character uploaded and you're working on her. And we discussed like the things that would make differences and how our ideas weren't actually that similar. It's really easy to do, guys. It's not that big of a deal. Like, she's got her golden pocket watch, and I'm probably going to change mine to bronze or silver, and they're going to work completely differently, and mine's not actually a pocket watch either. So you can have something that might be similar, but they can still be very different. And it doesn't hurt to talk to that person.
Yeah. In fact, I don't know if I actually thank you for coming to me like that, because that, I know that you wouldn't rip off of me. I know I can trust you with that. It was so freaking easy, you guys. It might seem a little bit daunting to approach someone and be like, okay, yeah, so you did this thing, and I have this other thing over here that can you just make sure it doesn't look bad? Just shoot us a message, shoot us a note. It is literally the easiest thing in the world, because we're all fairly agreeable people. None of us here are gonna come down on you with the wrath of heaven. How dare you also have an idea for a round-shaped weapon like this?
Yeah.
Because as long as you don't do a Kyoketsu Shoge same fighting style, then it's really no big deal. But yeah, just consideration, you guys.
It's inevitable that people will have similar ideas. It's gonna happen. But what you can do instead of just uploading something is you can talk to that person. Just sort it out. Because I know Chica and me as well. We both have water based characters, and I wanted to do a thing with mine, and so I went to Chica and I was like, hey, is your character doing this thing? Because I don't want to do the same thing as you.
Exactly.
It was fine, and you might come up with something really creative from that discussion.
Exactly. And that's the thing, it can aid you.
I find the most useful thing when kind of coming up with ideas is to have someone there to bounce ideas off of, and because you don't know what they're thinking, they're a completely different person to you, And when you say something, they might have a different association with that, which is, even more interesting than what you originally planned.
Mm-hmm. Well, and plus, too, I'd like to point out, like you mentioned with Panya and Adelphi, like, they do have slightly similar things, but because Mojo came to me, then, I can I can rest well knowing that it's complete coincidence that they have those similar things. And so, like, once all the info there is revealed and whatnot, it's completely chill and cool and comfortable. If you see that someone did a thing and then you decide to do a similar thing, or you just happen to have something going on already, and you decide to just upload it without contacting the other person, it can look a little bit tacky, to say the least.
Oh, especially when it's like a few days after that person uploaded their character.
That is super suspicious, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't say something, the automatic assumption of that person is going to be, oh, wow, thanks, I've just been ripped off.
Or like you were trying to hide something.
Yeah, and it sucks to have that feeling. Like, it doesn't feel good to be suspicious about people in the fandom. Sad fact is that it happens.
Yeah. Raisy's saying a few days. Yeah, there's actually been cases where it's happened in, like, within 24 hours.
Yeah.
And, like,
just be thoughtful.
And if it does happen, just apologize for it. Like, humility, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's a very important thing.
You very well could have had that idea originally on your own before seeing that character. And if that is the case, contact that person and tell them before you start uploading your shit right after they have. Because that way you can avoid a misunderstanding through communication.
It is. It's really easy, and it might seem daunting, coming up to someone else and, letting them know what's going on, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it's not like they're gonna, as long as you're coming at them like, I'm not trying to attack you, I'm just uncertain about this, and I'd like a little feedback. If they attack you, then they're an asshole, and you shouldn't waste your time with them, but they're not, the likelihood of them doing that is so slim.
Especially in this fandom. Like I said, I think that we're all pretty much, like, for the most part, reasonable people. I can think of a few examples, but we're cool people, so we're going to be cool with talking and stuff, because that's how a good fandom works.
Yeah, communication is the key.
Oh, okay. I don't know if we should continue on this topic or save it for the next video, because then we won't have anything for the next video. But we'll talk about things such as crediting, courtesy crediting, more workings in relation to, like, dealing with being ripped off or figuring out if you have been in the next video. So we should probably, like, turn back around and
actually talk about Innocence.
Alyssa just brought up, I wish more people made headcanons about Innocence evolution, and we can discuss that because, this is Innocence Part 2.
We might get a Part 3 if we're not careful, but yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I think we actually discussed Innocence evolution last video.
We definitely, mentioned, becoming a general, going from equipped to crystal type. Is there anything in specifically you had in mind, Alyssa?
Yeah, on evolution.
Yeah.
I need to, check what our other topics were, but my iPad is, a foot away from me, and I'm so lazy. I'm so lazy.
It's stuff. If need be, we can cover it. We can introduce it. You're struggling enough without losing your iPad.
The sickness makes me 3 times lazier than normal, which is really sad because I'm a lazy person naturally. Okay.
You're allowed.
Excuse me. And just until if Alyssa gets back to us on that, the other topics we have planned, in case y'all have a preference for what we cover next, is the having 2 innocence controversy. We've got dual weapons as another one, which is pretty quick to go over, whether it's possible to have dual wielding weapons. There's headcanons. There's innocence themes, which I'm going to ramble about for so long, but things like that. So, if y'all have a preference. Okay, she got back to us. Well, I have headcanons about crystal type, for example, like how someone who wields crystal type dies. Someone who shares blood with them can wield it in their place. Oh, wow, that's interesting. That reminds me a little bit of the hereditary stuff.
I think, like, the big thing there, though, like, not necessarily totally shooting it down, it's just bringing up that innocence, picks its accommodator by, like, their heart.
I think
kind of literally in the case of blood, but it's by their desires. So the person with the shared blood might not necessarily have the same desires as the first exorcist. That said, it might be something interesting to play around with.
Yeah, I think we discussed it pretty well last time, too, about innocence possibly being proven as not hereditary based on the Fallen experiments.
Yeah.
It definitely relies on, at least from what we've gathered and what's been implied, is that the sync relies on something in the person's heart, their desires, their goals. And all the exorcists are broken people, so that's another thing to keep in mind.
I definitely think there's a connection between the soul of the exorcist. I mean, considering that Cont and Alma were resurrected and could still synchronize with their innocence, despite having a completely different body and likely a different blood type, perhaps. So, yeah, I think it's really connected with the soul, and it seems, especially with current developments in the manga, that there's a lot of, connection with the soul and stuff. But I don't want to get too into that because it would spoiler territory.
Yeah, and I think we've already kind of gotten on evolution. But I think that's definitely, like, where the main understanding is regarding innocence and sync rate, or how they end up syncing.
Yeah.
On this topic, we got an interesting ask a while back on the DGM OC fan reviews Tumblr, which is basically, can an innocence that was originally parasitic find a new accommodator after the previous one dies and become equipment?
I remember that.
And Happy and I talked about it, and I talked about it with some others, and, like, the kind of general consensus is that it would be perfectly realistic, like, if it could switch types, because the fragment is the base foundation. And personally, like, again, we don't know for sure, so this is all headcanons and theories. Personally, I like to see it as the innocence accommodating the person's heart. Like, if a person is going to be parasitic, it can change to parasitic for them. Like, there's something that triggers that type. But that's just, like, my theorizing. I haven't heard any others regarding that, probably because it hasn't really been discussed.
Well, what I was kind of considering is, because as it's been revealed, past Alma was now an equipment type, but then when current male Alma attempts to synchronize with his innocence, it becomes attached to him, and so that kind of implies to me that there is the potential for it to be a parasitic, even if it was previously an equipment.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that synchronization was not correct.
Yeah.
And because of what was going on and the contextual factors that influenced the synchronization. But I think that does lend itself to the fact that the innocence can change between people. I'd say it might have a theme still continuing, because, like, I think the innocence in each innocence is sentient, not always as sentient as Apocryphos, but they're sentient enough to kind of have their own identity of sorts through their theme. But I don't know, that's just an idea.
Well, and also, like, I think what brings to mind is Timothy's innocence, which kind of broke the understandings we had previously, or at least like the assumptions we had previously about parasitic innocence. For one, it told us that it didn't have to be a living thing that gave it to the exorcist. Like, Corey was bitten. Another thing Timothy's innocence proved is that it could be shoved into your body.
Yeah.
And, like, you didn't have to be bitten or injured necessarily. So there's a lot to think about. A lot of theorizing, a lot of headcanons. I mean, you're usually not going to be in trouble unless you go something against hard fact. Canon.
Like having two innocences? Like, okay, so my idea
that's our next topic, actually, the two innocences.
Exactly. But the thing with Cross and Grav of Maria is that Cross has that weird-ass magic stuff that, like, allowed him to... I don't know what the hell he has, okay? But it's what allows him, or, like, it's those skills that allow him to modify the Akuma. And if I'm not mistaken, it seems like it's that same magic that is reanimating Maria's corpse, and that's why he can utilize her innocence like that.
That's what I got from it.
I've got the... Sorry if my voice is out. I've got the actual page. I can't remember the chapter. Sissy found the chapter. I've got right here. I don't have it on screen share because it's on my iPad. Sorry, guys. But basically it says... Lena Lee asks, is that doll an anti-Akuma weapon? Alan says, that isn't a doll, it's a human corpse. Lavi says, hey, isn't that ... a forbidden ... And then Alan continues to explain, Master uses magic to make that corpse, a woman with a parasite-type innocence, his own. Maria takes orders from Master alone, which implies that he's not syncing with Grave of Maria. He's actually using sorcery, forbidden magic, to control Maria's corpse, which still has the innocence in her.
Precisely. So I know that Cross is the only time in canon that we see, quote-unquote, an exorcist with two innocences, but like you just explained, he in fact doesn't. So if there's any sort of misconception there, he doesn't have to. He uses some nasty shit to make that happen. So...
It's a forbidden magic, and
he lives with a corpse. Nasty shit is the only way I can think to describe that.
Yeah, and I don't blame some of the confusion because I know, like, some of the original subtitles really fucked it up in the anime, and basically said, oh no, he has two innocences, and it's like, I mean, he sort of does, but he's not synced with both of them, so technically he only has one who's controlling the other. So that's something to keep in mind because there have been characters before that are being synced with two innocence fragments, and we've never seen that happen in canon. As proved by Cross, again, by this misconception, he's not actually synced with two, and personally, I don't think a person could sync with two. I think it would kill them.
Yeah, well, and plus, like, imagine if the two innocences, like, couldn't get along and were in conflict with each other. Like, it wouldn't be the same as dark matter and innocence, but they wouldn't want to get along.
But I think, like, the kind of the imagery that, surrounds the Grave of Maria is quite, telling to the fact that she's being controlled and that she's not actually syncing with Cross because, she's kept in a casket that's, wrapped in chains. She's blindfolded.
She follows around underground.
Yeah, and she that mistake that being mistaken as a doll. I think that was an intentional comment, not just like a offhand Hoshino made up. Was it Lavi to say? Or
Lavi mentioned that it was the forbidden technique, and Lena Lee mentioned it looks like a doll.
Yeah, like
she looks like a doll.
I think that was a intentional comment that Hoshino, put in to say, this Grave of Maria isn't, working in harmony with Cross. Cross is manipulating it like one would manipulate a doll.
Yeah. And before people are like, oh, well, I mean, she's got the doll-like parts, for the record, there are theories out there that the doll-like parts are because she got those parts blasted off before she died. So it's definitely a corpse.
She's being preserved, so,
Yeah. It's
pretty they probably just added parts in where
Her face is probably covered for a reason, too, which is unfortunate. Alyssa mentions, I wonder if Grave of Maria smells like a rotting corpse, and I sure pray not.
I would hope that if he has the magic to reanimate her, that he would have magic to make her not rot anymore.
Yeah.
And Ryu, we actually discussed parasitic beasts in the last video, and I expressed my bitterness at not knowing much about them. So,
So, yeah. Well, and then let's also point out, too, that Cross is a general, which I imagine is the only reason why the magic aside he can, like...
Get away with it?
Yeah, get away with it, and if circumstances were different...
Cross is even more of a special snowflake than just a general, too, though, we gotta remember, because, one, he was involved with the 14th Will, which gives him a huge amount of playroom, that he's already doing stuff under the radar. And two, he was a scientist before he became an exorcist.
Yeah.
So, who knows what scary secret shit that he knows.
Yeah. Sorry, but where I was going with that is that people who do look to Cross and say he has 2 innocences, he's a general, and a lot of times when I see people try and use 2 innocences in the fandom, they're not a general.
And they're extremely overpowered.
Yeah, so... Yeah, just a whole lot of reasons why it doesn't work.
Yeah. There's, well, no. But, one thing to keep in mind is, like, dual-wielding innocence is possible. Which is basically having 2 forms. An example would be Choji, when he activates his innocence, he has... Does he have 1 or 2, actually, gauntlets?
No, he has 1.
He has 1. There was someone else.
Oops, sorry.
There was someone else.
Tidal has the chisel and the sword, by the looks of it.
The chisel and the hammer, I think.
I thought it was like a swordish.
Because it
a
relates
cross
to
and a
sculpting.
scepter.
It relates to sculpting. I know that.
Sorry, I have it on the docs. It's a cross and a scepter-like rod, according to the Wikipedia.
Yeah.
To clarify, it's 1 shard of innocence in 2 physical forms, like it's been busted in half type of thing.
Yeah, and there's a bow and arrow exorcist, canonically, that we see very briefly before he bites the dust. So, like, it depends. It's definitely possible. You don't have to have, like, 2 fragments to have 2 weapons, technically.
Right. So. And I guess, doesn't the same thing kind of work for Lena Lee's anklets and then Conda's twin illusions, although I guess there's kind of controversy on whether or not that is just an illusion.
Yeah, Lena Lee's boots are a great example because they're 2 boots. So, yeah, Ryu, you missed all the fun shit. Sorry. Good thing it's recorded. You can watch back.
Yeah, you can have some, what is it? We have like at least 6 hours of recording now.
Yeah,
no, probably more than that.
I think it's like 12, after this one.
Because I know what some people have been doing is they'll listen to it while doing other things, but...
Yeah.
In Jaeger's history, yes, the bow and arrow exorcist was actually the one who saved Jaeger. And I think I have an image of that in my stash folder of Innocence references.
Look at you being all prepared.
Somewhat. I'm still not done with this, but I linked it in the previous journal and the previous talk, and here he is. It's like, I saw Joanne facing a man I didn't know. And as you can see, there's both a bow and an arrow. So...
I wonder then, like, what if someone did a quiver innocence, where it's like a regular bow, regular arrows, but the innocence within the quiver, like, enchants the arrows or something?
How much you want to bet one of those are going to show up now?
I already have, like, 5 too many, so I don't mind. Just remember, you heard it on D.Gray-Talk from Chica first, so...
Feel free to advertise for us, too.
Crediting is a very nice thing. We like people who credit.
Oh, there was actually a crossbow innocence as well.
Yeah.
I wonder if
one of their friends had it.
I think, It was Kazana Reed. Yeah. I'm still screen sharing, but Kazana Reed, who was on Sokolo's team, had a crossbow.
Recently, I've been thinking that I could kick myself for not giving Adolphe a crossbow innocence when I had the chance. But now I'm remembering why, because I probably didn't want to use the same weapon as we saw in canon. Not that I have anything against people who do that, like, swords and arrows and crossbows are amazing. Just, yeah.
Yeah, and I've got Tidal up right now, and it's kind of glowy in energy at the moment, but I'll try to find it deactivated.
We never really see it in its deactivated form. He only ever whips it out when he's using it.
Whips it out.
Oh my god.
I just need the Ice King gif with the eyebrows.
Oh, here's another big-ass sword in D.Gray, man. I don't think we... There's Tiki. He's on the end.
I forgot it got so big. Holy cow.
This sounds really bad.
Gee! You know me! You know I'm the one person here who would not do that!
Okay. I'm good.
I hate you.
With love.
I do, but I hate you.
Oh, that was great.
Oh, did you see on Girl Squad the other day? I learned I learned a new euphemism because of Mojo.
Oh, the curtains thing?
Yes. I was so mortified.
Basically, the question was, wait, Mojo, you should say it. You'll say it way better than me. Are Alan's...
Does Alan's curtains match his carpet?
Oh my god. And then I asked what room decor had to do with anything.
Oh my gosh. That's basically, is he white down there too, was the question. For those who didn't get it. Okay.
You're still screen sharing, you noodle.
Yeah, I know. Going off now. I actually remembered this time.
Oh.
I feel like, why doesn't Choji's go into both hands whenever it, activated the first time on both hands?
Because he's a scrub.
Gosh darn it, Choji.
We're probably going to see him fight soon anyway, so hopefully we'll get an answer.
Yeah.
Since he, challenged Alan to battle.
Throw down.
That probably won't last long.
I kind of want to see Kanda fighting Choji because Kanda's like, no, I'm gonna kill Alan, and then someone else tries to
Choji like a fangirl to Kanda, or is that a fandom headcanon?
That is kind of true. He does admire Kanda.
Okay.
And he was almost like, I must take Kanda's place because he's dead now. And then Kanda's like, surprise, I'm alive.
Surprise, bitch.
I still don't like Choji.
Okay, question. Sorry, this is kind of going backwards, but as far as the crossbows and bow and arrow kind of thing goes, earlier in the talk we were mentioning how would the exorcist have to retrieve those every time they shoot something like that off? So we have seen in canon, we don't know what the heck they do with it, or if as you guys were saying, the bow is what's enchanted and they're just regular arrows, but food for thought.
Well, I mean, they could always be actual energy made from the innocence is what I've seen most people do.
Right. Yeah. And then you just avoid the situation entirely. Which is smart. I think it's smart.
Yeah.
But, sorry.
Okay.
Imagine, though, back in medieval days, actually having to really go find the arrows or just go buy new ones. That'd get expensive. Damn.
It'd be interesting, too, if you do have an exorcist who requires a physical form to enchant the arrows with their innocence, would they make their own arrows, or would the science division make them?
I think the science division.
And would there be different materials used for it? It's kind of fun to think about.
Oh, as if I didn't already feel bad enough for those guys. Can you imagine them all lined up, just mass producing 50 arrows, and then going on a mission? The exorcist comes back, is like, yeah, I need 50 more by tomorrow. The real reason that the science department never sleeps.
Okay.
Oh, they're smart.
I would not want to be a scientist there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Overworked.
Okay, what else do we got that we've got to talk over?
Well, like limitations and physical afflictions and cons for innocence.
Less cheese wording.
You're contagious in more way than one. I want to be productive. Curse you.
I had a little bit of a spiel. I don't know if it was the last video or the video before that about like some of the more extreme limitations being more fandom-esque than canon. It's become really popular to go into more detail with your character's innocence and say things like, oh, it gives them calluses, oh, it gives them burns, you know,
because
that kind of thing. Because not only that, but like it adds a little more realism to it, and you don't have to add that for your character, but people like to read it. I like to read it, and I know others do.
Well, and plus it can be an interesting plot device, like if you're like even just working on imagining you're in a fight or something, or if you're actually writing a fan fiction, having a hiccup that their innocence causes that puts them in a really bad situation where they have to either fight or fly, that can be super interesting.
Yeah, and you know, limitations are a great way to subtract from a possibly overpowered character.
Right.
Like, I remember, I've given so many examples from my characters today, sorry guys, but it's relevant. Kira, like I said, has a morphing body armor, and I remember one of the first questions I got was, well, can she form anything? It's like, well, no, Alan couldn't form everything from his arm. Why would Kira form everything from her skin innocence? And that's a kind of limitation, you know, like they can't just form anything, or they can only form certain things, or they have an energy limit that they can spend.
Yeah, that was something I was concerned with when I first created Embria Flip almost 3 years ago. I was worried that people were going to get on her about, you know, being able to scan weapons and recreate them. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that she's good with them.
Yeah,
plus now
you have to know how to use it.
Yeah. Well, and then plus recently I've started thinking about her creating more steampunk versions of weapons so that it can kind of be more stylized. Plus, I want to draw steampunk weapons, so why not give it to a character?
And you know, it fits with canon too, because Alan, his original form, I always try to nail this into people's heads because they don't know, but his original form was called Cross, and that was the one with the claw, and how he could form an arm gun, and like that lightsaber thing. And all of his forms had a kind of design that looked like they had something similar in common to each other. Yeah. They all looked kind of morbid and veiny, or they had certain shapes.
There was consistency between their design, and it wasn't like, one was this grey, creepy arm, and then another was this, super steampunky gun or whatever, It was still almost metallic and grotesque and biological.
Yeah, and like even when Lena Lee's boots change slightly, they still have that common shape or that common style. So that's something to think about.
You saying just now that Alan's first claw is called Cross made me realize that I now wear 2 crosses around my neck. I have an Alan claw and then my Christian cross because, yay. Little things.
I think another limitation that I often end up helping people with is like a limitation itself is the releases, because your first stage of your innocence is probably going to take out level 1 Akuma, maybe level 2, depends on how strong you are. And then your second release is going to be more adept at taking out level 2s, and depending again how strong your exorcist is, maybe a level 3. So that's a type of limitation itself, like your power levels. Like you could have a really cool gun attack, but it only takes out level 1s. Yeah. That's a limitation.
Another limitation is like if they need something additional to their uniform in order to aid in their innocence. Like I can't think of an example that doesn't involve my own characters, but like for example, if Lena Lee needed to wear a long skirt one day and then tried to go flying and oh crap, that doesn't work, then like the fact that they are still human can in and of itself create limitations. I'm really trying to avoid using Adelphi, because that's my...
Well, I guess one thing to think about is Conda obviously trained to use his sword. Lena Lee, I have this fun image of like her first learning how to use her boots and accidentally flying into walls. You know, like they gotta learn how to use this stuff. Sure, the Innocents could give them an upper hand, or maybe magically help them out every once in a while, but they still gotta learn to use their weapons.
I know, like with the weightlessness, Lavies is weightless, and with one of my OCs, she has a chalice full of water, and there's two things about the chalice. The chalice is heavier than it actually is. And so she has to, strengthen, her upper body to be able to carry it for, long periods of time. But also it requires water, which it purifies into holy water that can be used to heal exorcists. But the purification takes a while to happen. So she has to be very strategic about how she uses water. Is she going to heal a cut on that person? But if she does, what's going to happen if someone is very close to dying? She's going to need all her water then.
Yeah.
And I've structured her whole innocence in this way where she has to be constantly thinking about what's best to do, which is stressful in a battle environment. And, she's got to be doing that whilst avoiding getting attacked.
Yeah, getting shot.
Yeah, she has a few offensive moves, but it's pretty much beating up the Akuma with her fists, kind of level, because she has nothing else. She's not an offensive, equipment type, and so she really has to think about what she's doing and what other people are doing, because if they go to do something stupid that's going to put them in danger, then she's going to have to waste water on them, and then if something else happens, she's not going to be able to help them. So, think definitely about, your character's strategy. What do they do in battle? How do they use their innocence? And how does it affect them? And, what are the drawbacks?
Who gets yelled at if they're stupid?
Yeah.
And especially if, like...
Yeah. Go on, Sissy.
Sorry. If, like what Mojo's saying, if you have a limited amount of, like, the supply of whatever your exorcist needs in order to, like, activate their innocence, I know that Liesel has, like, a standard amount of bombs that she's actually allowed to discharge before she is completely out, and she actually has to wait for them to recharge themselves. So, like, try and play into what your character needs. So if you do go with, like, something like a crossbow and arrow, do they have, like, a limited set of arrows? What are they going to do whenever those run out? So,
or, like, do the arrows generate themselves? Is there a limitation to this generation?
Time limits, stuff like that.
Yeah, and especially with bows, I think a lot of people forget is you need a lot of arm strength to pull them, especially the long bows. I don't think I've seen any ones with a long bow, but they require a lot of arm strength to draw them.
I can confirm as an archer that longbows are freaking hard. Compound bows are easier because the bow is designed to take up all the weight, but yeah, longbows, it's entirely on the archer's arm to hold all that weight. And I only have a 30-pound and it's hard. I know back, like, in medieval days, they were 180-pound draws. Yeah. And an archer would have to hold that for more than 2 seconons before they released.
And you can really hurt yourself if you do it properly.
Oh, you can completely rip the skin off your arm, yeah.
Oh my god. I think I know a guy, my friend's got a boyfriend, and I think he's got about an 80-pound draw. And it's just, like, mind-blowing that, it goes all the way up to 180. And, yeah, definitely think about, what are they going to be doing, especially with stuff like archery. You're not going to fire off straight away. You're going to be waiting for the opportunity. You're going to have to aim.
You got to think about the wind.
Yeah, and are there any other contextual factors that are going to impede your exorcist?
And this applies to larger weapons too, because like for instance, we discussed scythes at the beginning of this video. Scythes are huge, depending on what type you're using. And you don't want to dice your comrades by accident because you swung it behind you and weren't looking behind you.
Yeah.
And the same could be said of, you know, big swords. I mean, I don't know what constitutes a big sword. I'm assuming a claymore is a big sword. So I just know of these swords. I just don't know what, you know.
Friendly fire.
Yeah, but like two-handed swords are gonna be heavy, and shields are gonna be heavy. So
unless the innocence makes it not heavy.
Yeah, like, is the innocence gonna negate this weight?
Yeah.
Or is it not? But also, like, if you're swinging around like a weightless sword, you know, but that's still gonna have the force you put behind it. So that could be exaggerated at all. I feel like Lavi can get away with it because he's got this kind of almost ridiculous. I mean, I do love it, but it's a ridiculous, you know, hammer, and it gets to these ridiculous sizes, and he's just waving it around because that's what he can do. But you know, has he ever, you know, smacked someone in the face and, you know, thrown him away? Because he clearly has the power to, you know, launch Crory into the air. What if he misswings and hits someone? You know.
Well, and I think it's worth remembering, too, that the exorcists aren't the only ones to handle these weapons when they're forged into weapons. That's, like, under the science department, and those guys, they're going to feel the weight of the weapon, where the exorcist might not. So it has to be something that the science guys can actually, you know, move around and work with, too. Like, I'm assuming that they'd have machinery and stuff that would help them with it. But, you know, just like something to keep in mind.
I just pictured Kamui trying to do the drill test on Claude 9's monkey. I think I actually wrote about that at some point, but
I don't think Lao Jimin would go for it.
No. I think, well, I had something similar to this, but I kind of forgot it. One thing I do want to mention is what I've seen in some newbie characters is they'll have an innocence weapon, but at the same time they'll have like this backup weapon or something that's not innocence, and they're like, oh yeah, they can use this if they drop their innocence. It's like, well, guys, I am sorry to inform you, but innocence is the only thing that can harm Akuma.
I mean, you might be able to, you know, for a brief amount of time, defend against it.
Because, like, I mean, there was a whole group of cops that shot at the first Akuma we ever saw in the manga, and it didn't scratch it. There's nothing that can break its hide but innocence. So that's or another Akuma. So you've really got to think about that if you're doing this stuff like, oh, she's got a knife in her back pocket and she can just stab the Akuma with that if she loses her weapon. The knife's not going to do shit, honey.
I'd like to point out that there is one character that I absolutely love to pieces that I don't want to name because I don't know if this is supposed to be common knowledge or not. But their weapon isn't the best. It doesn't like to get along with them all that well, but they do have another weapon that can't destroy Akuma, but it does, like you guys said, distract them until the innocence does get its shit together and decide to work after a while. But the idea of having an exorcist that maybe isn't necessarily the most helpful is definitely an interesting one. If you do want to have that backup weapon, you just need to make sure and do it in such a way that it does adhere to canon rules, like guns and knives can't pierce an Akuma's hide.
It may distract it, though.
Yeah, exactly. It'll distract it, and they do face brokers. They do face human enemies, which while I would rather have a Noah on my side than a knife, then it's still something to keep in mind.
Like, they could maybe, you know, like, defend against an attack briefly, but then, you know, these Akuma are, you know, supernatural in their strength, so, you know...
Their bullets are gonna slice through a lot of things, too.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you can deflect the trajectory of one, but, you know...
Talisman Sam says, none with a gun, anyone? Oh, I guessed right. That was something in the chat. But I think another thing to think about is the Finder's technology. Yeah. I would not necessarily suggest giving Finder technology to an exorcist because that technology should honestly go to the Finders who have nothing to defend themselves with. Yeah. But they do have things such as talismans and shields that can briefly hold Akuma at bay, but we gotta remember a level 2 and a level 3 can break through those barriers.
Yeah.
And it happens repetitively, unfortunately. So.
But that's the only thing they have. Cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, finders have guns too, though I think they use those against humans.
What do you
And
call
brokers.
it? Danny the Finder that shoved the Millennium Earl out of the way.
As spoiler alert, but in the recent chapter, a finder kind of shoved the Millennium Earl to the ground.
Oh, so those were finders?
Yeah, those are finders.
It was Danny the Finder, or whatever his name was.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that
The
is
bravest finder around.
Yeah, until, he kind of got eaten by the Earl. But anyway.
Devoured. Consumed wholly.
His entire
Oh my
life
God.
force.
gone forever.
Okay, what else do we got on the list?
Innocence themes and
Oh, lordy.
yeah.
Oh, look, I see a Delphi.
Is this gonna be a three-parter? Because I think we're at like an hour 40 right now.
Are we?
I think so.
I could probably sum it up without going on too much of a tangent.
Okay.
I don't mind doing a third part on Innocence. It's quite a broad topic, so and we could get distracted.
Well, maybe if we do a third part, we'll actually get dark matter in there too.
And get the no exorcist thing in.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we could split half of the rip-off video that's next and start with the rest of the Innocence stuff.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Since
So I don't know if rip-off is going to take 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that would be a really salty video if it did.
and since Innocence is a lot of what is ripped off, then it might be a good segue into that.
Yeah.
It could all be summed up in a short phrase, though. Don't be a jerk. Consider it.
Well, Sissy, do you want to do a quick commentary on the training required for Exorcist?
Oh.
Because that's kind of short.
Sure. So one of the major things that we kind of have down is that it seems like there's a general consensus in canon that parasitic type innocence is, I guess, like easier to adapt to for the Exorcist, partially because it does actually respond to their emotions and their immediate needs, whereas equipment types, it's kind of assumed that they probably have some sort of training that they have to go through in order to get the hang of, like, the innocence once it's actually been developed into a weapon. I don't know, we get this...
Yeah, my favorite comment from Sissy, too, earlier, when we were discussing this before the video, is parasitic types can basically BS their way through. Which we saw with Crory, like, he didn't even know he was an exorcist, but he was still killing Akuma as a vampire. But,
it did ail him, though. Like,
yeah.
he was crying, like, I did it again, I didn't mean to. And the one character that you want to hug, like, the first time you see him after he's, done beating the boys up.
Yeah, and we know canonically that parasitic innocence is technically... You kind of got it slightly on the easy route, aside from, your lifespan being eaten up. But they've got a closer bond, technically. They kind of have a cheat, almost, because they're linked by their body,
Right.
They still have to train with it, like, Alan, again, couldn't use his arm for the longest time.
I'd like to throw out, though, that another con has to be the sheer amount of stuff that they have to eat.
Yeah.
I would not want to travel with a parasite type.
Yeah. Yeah, and people always forget that. It drives me nuts. But parasite types, if you have a parasite type exorcist, Crory still eats a shit ton, too. He doesn't just eat Akuma blood. So you got to keep that in mind if you have a parasite type. They're going to be eating a lot of food.
Oh my gosh, Timothy's going to be, like, eating nonstop because he's a growing boy and a parasite type exorcist.
Right. Not to mention, even Crory has his limits for how much Akuma blood he can, consume before it actually starts hurting him.
Yeah.
I wonder
ties in with the cons we mentioned too.
I wonder if how much he eats of regular food would have any effect on that. Kind of like with alcohol, where, you know, his body has enough energy, it might be able to handle more Akuma blood than if he were, you know, hadn't eaten for, say, 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of surprised, like, the science department hasn't developed, like, nutrition pills or something for those poor guys.
Right?
Well, I guess vitamin D is sort of close to that, but, you know.
Sure, let's, like, zombify the entire fucking order.
Technical terms.
You're the most technical.
I really hope that the anime has that. I want that so bad.
I will cry if it's not in there. Like, maybe they could slot it after the Timothy arc, but still, like...
I would be missing something without that.
Because I could get if it was a bit dodgy to start back on, because, you know, you've got this really goofy, you know, random, you know, thing, and then suddenly it's, you know, dark and depressing, you know. You've got the Timothy arc, and then the Armageddon, and,
Did you say Armageddon?
Yeah. Armageddon.
Ouch! Think if they don't decide to start off with the Commodore D arc, like how the first volume of the manga has the content that doesn't show up till in the anime till episode 6.
Yeah.
Imagine if they do that with the Commodore D arc, where they have Timothy G arc or the Phantom G arc, and then they do that after that. So then we have Timothy in there getting all zombified.
Oh my god!
Rollerblading around, biting people.
Oh dear.
You know what? They might actually do that just because they're trying to get new people to get into the show too. They'd be like, let's hit them with something hard first, not the zombies.
Like I can understand why they wouldn't
right off
do
the
it.
bat.
Yeah, like I understand why they wouldn't do it at first, because, you know, for people who are picking up the series right away and without watching, you know, the first half, they're going to be really confused.
Right.
But, you know, this is, you know, being broadcast as a continuation.
True.
So
I feel like they might want to start for Timothy just so that they can introduce like the whole exorcist thing though, and like finding accommodators and sorry, tangent again. Fudge. Okay.
I'm kind of the one that started it, so.
Oh, you're good. Okay. It's so interesting. I love it. Okay.
What time are we reaching? Because I have no idea.
4:02.
It's 11 o'clock for me, which is, I think, the time we usually wrap up.
Okay. We should probably start wrapping up then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're at a kind of good place.
To mention things that we haven't gone over and that we'll go over in the next vid for sure. Also, for my memory when I rewatch this. What we'll cover next time before we start on the ripping off is Innocence themes. And it looks like we've got a little thing on the impact for sync rates, as well as actually mentioning dark matter. And no exorcist. So I think we should keep it to those, unless y'all really have something you want us to talk about next time. But again, we'll finally wrap up the topic of innocence in our next video, and in our next video, the main topic will be copying and ripping off.
We'll try to let that be it, but since we're finishing up Innocence, knowing us, might not quite get there.
Yeah.
So then, does anyone have anything going on next Friday aside from Chi probably still dying?
I haven't looked at my work schedule yet.
I don't think I do.
Because it's technically my first day of spring break, so.
You know,
I have to
during
do
my
work through
spring break, I am so jelly. I don't think I have anything next Friday. I'm getting back on campus Sunday, so.
Same.
Yeah, no, I have to work on stuff through all of my Easter break, so I'm probably still going to be here.
Yeah, just for like a heads up too, there was a little confusion last time because we did the video on a Saturday. We've kind of figured that if we miss a Friday and the likelihood of us not being able to do it the next Friday, is high, then we'll try to do it on a Saturday, just so there's not like a 2-week period of nothing, because that's quite a while.
Yeah, like obviously it's not life or death if these things don't happen, because obviously there have been a few times when we've had to go for a few week breaks, but just to keep it rolling and keep ourselves spending too much time on this conversation.
Oh
no!
No! Question.
Can I just say, this is for Chica, glowing condom.
I hate you all.
Okay, I really pity those who miss these videos and aren't in the chat, because y'all miss so much.
Why do you do this to me?
I'll be inappropriate.
He has no libido. What are you talking about? Okay, anyway.
That must be nice.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Again, we kind of already did a warning last video, too, about what to expect for the ripping off. It's probably not going to be too much of a positive video, though we'll try to give a positive spin to it. If there's anything in particular you want to ask about, preferably ripping off, but like if you want to ask something about Innocence, and we can do it real quick, we'll do that. But again, if you have any experiences where you were ripped off, or what your feelings are regarding what constitutes as copying and what doesn't, that would be great to like give feedback on. Mention in one of our video journals, or even just message us like with what you think, because we can talk about it in the next video and mention your own viewpoint. So
definitely.
I hate you all.
Wouldn't you be horrified if we changed your icon to a glowing condom?
Yes! Mary! Don't you dare!
Okay, so I think that pretty much covers it, unless y'all have any remaining questions, stuff.
I think we're kind of good. I'm thinking that I'll probably throw up a journal. I don't know if it's going to happen tonight, but one of these days, just a broad question of what do you want to see us address in these talks, just so that way, if anyone stumbles across it, tomorrow or like 6 months down the line, they can still comment on it, and it doesn't have to seem related to what we've been talking about or what we said that we would talk about. Not sure how many comments it'll get, because lately I've gotten 0 comments on stuff, but you never know, so.
Yeah.
Also, another point, give a comment, get a comment. Leave comments, people.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Especially on this event stuff, because, in our first video, it was mentioned that some people were missing a previous event that kind of the community was working on, which was DGM Rewind. And, guys, gonna be completely honest, the reason why that died out was because we weren't getting much for feedback. So just keep that in mind with events like these, like what we're holding right now. Feedback is what keeps it alive. We don't know what y'all are feeling about otherwise. We don't know what y'all want to see. So,
yeah. Plus on personal works, it sucks to see something that you upload and we're super excited about and see it get 0 comments.
Yeah, I mean, even just a wow, this looks really nice would be great.
Yeah.
for the people out there who aren't getting any. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, leave more comments.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
We're begging you. We will beg. I mean, we'll get sassy about it, but we will beg.
Not above groveling.
I think at this point we're desperate enough that groveling is not something below us anymore. And offering cookies too couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
All the cookies.
Yeah, it's this kind of culture of fave and run, and I feel like some people feel like they need to give like a really sophisticated, intelligent comment, but like you can just be like, hey, I like that thing. Like literally, I commented on someone's art, and I said, hey, I really like your character's hat, and the person replied back to me, and she was like, oh yeah, no, thanks for liking the hat. I really like the hat too. And,
yeah.
I've had fun little conversations with some really cool artists just because I've said, hey, I like that thing, or hey, there was one artist who'd done this like water overlay, but the first time I thought it was a map, and so she updated it later and she made it look more like water. And I mentioned to her that I thought it was a map originally, and she was having a right laugh about that, and so it's nice to have those little conversations and make people laugh and stuff like that.
Oh, and keep in mind, too, I'm pretty sure that's how all of us met, too, was commenting on each other's stuff, and then next thing you know, you're, closest friends.
Oh, yeah, I totally stalked most of the people I'm friends with now.
Yeah.
I was so intimidated by most of you
what
guys.
you want to see ends up getting done because you mentioned it, so we don't have to try to read your minds.
Because it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hard.
Okay, well, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. And as usual, we're going to get going, and then 20 minutes later, we still haven't. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go.
I was just saying, we'll see everyone next time, hopefully, and thank you for joining again.
Yes, thank you for coming to these. And thank you for watching and then rewatching them.
Yes.
And then your continued support and comments.
That sounded almost threatening.
And then thank you guys for... And then thank you guys.
A little bit.
Many thanks to everyone in the chat, too, for all the convocations of fun conversations and topics that you guys bring up. Again, that goes back to what we were saying before, but you guys are awesome. So
keeping this event alive.
Laser tag Innocence, now that could be interesting. No, I don't need more characters.
We gotta end the talk, Chica.
I'm sorry. All right. Thank you guys so much for coming again.
Yeah.
Bye.